Well, hello everyone. Let's talk about the latest Squad 404 member Mechty today. Her banner is arriving in a few hours or have already arrived by the time you are watching this video. So let's discuss if you need to pull for her, especially given that we just had Klukai and we know that Vector and Yuhi's banners are coming really soon after the current one. Then is Mechty worth pulling? What's her importance and role in your team? And how many dupes and weapons are optimal? We are going to cover her kit, team synergy, build, etc. to learn more and determine if it's worth investing in her. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Mechty is a Corrosion support character. Her main role in a team is an ally buffer and enemy debuffer. She can amplify ally damages, especially Corrosion damages, and can dispel debuffs from them. She can implant Corrosion weakness onto enemies, as well as can shred enemy defense. On higher dupes, she can even heal a little. She is the definition of a well-balanced support unit and she does her job exceptionally well. As you may already know, she is part of the top tier Corrosion comp consisting Klukai, Mechty and Peritia. But the question is she a must pull? Do you need to have her for Klukai? The short answer is no. Klukai said it herself, she is all you need. She is a solo warrior and can do absolutely fine by herself in any team comp, especially a V6. But if you want to have the most used and top meta team comp and do competitively well in Gunsmoke boss fight, then you are gonna wanna use the Klukai, Mechty, Peritia Corrosion trio. They synergize and feed off each other really well, and that's what makes them so desired together. Let me preface before the next part that I'm gonna assume you are using a V6 Klukai. You should be doing so in Gunsmoke anyway, even if you don't have her by borrowing from your platoon mates. Otherwise, with a V0 or V3 Klukai, the importance of having Peritia or Mechty diminishes a lot and they can't be utilized fully. With that being said, a V6 Klukai isn't inherently dependent on any of the other two for her to work at her best. The only thing you wanna care about when using a V6 Klukai is to reset her 6-turn ult cooldown every time, so that you can keep spamming her double ult, and that becomes easy with Peritia. I have specifically covered Peritia in my previous video and how that synergy works, which you can check out from here or later. But the TLDR is that Peritia's support attacks work as the battery to recharge Klukai's ult. But Peritia is not a very good DPS by herself. And there comes Mechty. Mechty is in fact more useful to Peritia than Klukai, but since we only have these 3 Corrosion SSR units anyway, that's why they are always together. Mechty buffs all of Peritia's AoE support attacks damages and converts them to do Corrosion damage. Without Mechty, Peritia is just a Klukai battery, but with her, Peritia's total damage output is enhanced hugely and she becomes comparative to V0 QJ. You wanna know about another buff? You know the corrosive infusion stacks that Klukai puts on an enemy, the Corrosion DOT thing? With Peritia's 6 support attacks and Mechty making them all Corrosion type, you can reach the max 15 stacks of that every turn, which is again a huge plus. That's why I would always recommend to get and build Peritia eventually, as she is a standard SSR and you don't need dupes and you can utilize the full Corrosion trio by building just one limited unit and one standard unit with a borrowed V6 Klukai. It's very cost efficient and long term investment. And yes, Mechty is also a complete unit at V0 just like Peritia, so you don't need any dupes. With her next most significant breakpoint at V6, I wouldn't recommend going for any dupes now. While her signature weapon is the one you'd ideally want to use on her, you can just use the soft SSR ARs for now if you are tight on pool resources. But we skipped over another big question though. If you haven't built Peritia and don't plan to, but was considering getting Mechty just for Klukai, is it still worth? Honestly, that's pretty debatable. The value drops a lot at that point. Without Peritia, Mechty by herself can buff Klukai's damage by 35%, but the impact of that on the total team damage output isn't that significant. So if you are considering pulling Mechty, consider the full trio. Otherwise, skipping her and saving more for a V1 C1 Vector might be a more beneficial decision for a F2P team planning perspective. Bruh, did I yap too much? I hope it's clear to you what her significance is in your roster. Let's quickly go over her skills now to figure out her full kit. Starting with her passive this time, it is what makes her so great in the Corrosion comp. By the way, you need to know she has 2 modes that she can switch between. Patch mode is the defensive mode and she starts the battle in this mode, and she can switch the mode with her ult to turbo mode, which is the offensive mode. Her passive puts a nightmare form buff on all allies that buffs any AoE damage by 10%, which works for both Klukai and Peritia. It buffs any AoE support attacks by 50%, which directly buffs Peritia's support attacks, and it converts AoE support attacks to Corrosion damage type. Again, as we said, buffing Peritia. Her ultimate switches the mode to offensive turbo mode for 3 turns, which enhances her attack and defense both for the time being. It gives all allies a cleanse for any debuffs and reduces their damage taken, and also puts a corrosion damage increment buff onto the nearest enemy, which in a boss fight will always be the boss. The issue with her ultimate is that it switches back to patch mode after 3 turns and the cooldown is 4 turns, so there's a 1 turn downtime and you can't always be in the turbo mode. Her skill 2 is a really useful one in combat. It cleanses all debuffs from self, recovers stability, that's cool and all, but the real kicker is it gives allies a Dream Guardian buff for 2 turns, which increase AoE support attack damage by 30%. How many Peritia buffs is that? Anyone counting? On top of that, if you are in turbo mode, you can use your basic attack or skill 1 again this turn and buffs your own damage. Her skill 1 is an AoE corrosion damage. When in turbo mode, it creates corrosion tiles in that area and also inflicts corrosion weakness to enemies inside. It can also trigger more Peritia support attacks if you have a V6 Peritia. Her basic attack is actually important and you will be using it, especially in turbo mode. It deals single target corrosion damage, increased stability damage and recovers convection index. Now on to her vertebrae levels. As mentioned before, Mechty is complete at V0. Her next significant breakpoint is at V6, but let me also quickly touch on her V3 along the way. It gives her a little bit of healing ability with her skill 2. She can heal herself quite a bit and also heal the lowest HP ally by 15% of Mechty's max HP and recover 3 stability for them. Now her V6 is the best upgrade. It buffs team-wide corrosion damage by 25% in patch mode, so her ult downtime hurts less, and it buffs her passive, so now it enhances any AoE attacks by 20% and AoE support attacks by 80%. That's a massive boost. Moving on to her weapon choices. Her signature Daydream is the one you want on her. It's the most suited for her, increasing her and all allies' corrosion damage output. While the Klukai signature Skyla is technically the second best option, why would you even give it to her, especially when they will always be on the same team? So the next best option is between the Battle Pass AR Guerno and standard SOP SSR Golden Melody. If you are F2P, of course you wanna go with Golden Melody here. And lastly, if you have to use an SR, your choices are between QBZ191 and Robinson. Just pick your pick, they are both comparable. Okay, on to her build. There's only one correct weapon attachment set choice here, and it's the Corrosion Boost set. The substats priority as always is attack percentage, then flat attack, then crit rate percentage followed by crit damage percentage. You wanna target 2400 plus attack, 40% plus crit rate and around 130% plus crit damage for an endgame full build. Her best in slot fixed keys are Rest the OL, Quickly so we can sleep. These two help maintain the corrosion tiles and the damage buff, and the last one is Loser Spirit, which helps cleanse boss buffs. As for the common keys, again Klukai is top priority for the best ones. Mechty can perform without them. Having said that, you can give her own common key, Full Read, Vepli and Litera's common key, or any plus attack percentage and plus crit percentage keys. Her playstyle can be of two different types based on if the enemy has corrosion weakness by default or Mechty needs to implant it and maintain it throughout the battle. If the boss doesn't have corrosion weakness, her skill rotation could be like this one, where she needs to start with her skill 2. But if the boss already has corrosion weakness, her rotation becomes pretty simple like this. You just wanna cycle her ult to be in the turbo mode most of the time. The additional attack after using skill 2 could be a basic attack or skill 1 depending on the need. As for the best teammates you want Mechty to be paired with, there is no doubt it's Klukai and Peritia. The whole point of this video started with the discussion about the viability of this trio. So yeah, this is the only team you wanna play her in. Just add any 2 more units, ideally a healer. So that brings to the final recommendation. In my opinion, if you want to use Klukai solo and don't want to build both Peritia and Mechty, or you don't have enough pulls you are saving for future dolls, then it makes total sense to skip her. But if you want to utilize Klukai to her fullest with her best supports, you want to use both Peritia and Mechty with her, and then you want to pull for her P0, you can stop right there. If you want to improve her further, the next pull recommendation is her signature weapon Daydream, 1 copy is enough, and your next and final target of course is to go for her V6. That concludes our review of Mechty. Let me know in the comments if you are pulling for her, or have you already and how did it go? Are you building the full corrosion comp or just because you like this dork? If you enjoyed the video and found it helpful, feel free to drop a like and subscribe. And if you want to directly show your support, you have the option to join the channel membership or send a super thanks. Those will always be super appreciated. Thanks for watching, stay tuned for a CN team meta update video next, and I'll catch you then. Goodbye.